Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Torah Hashem Ezras Hashem Yisbarach. As always, we begin with appreciation to TorahAnytime.com for giving us global access to reach the world with these shiurim. Equally appreciative to Kol HaLashon for its global network, to Torah Communications Network, to YouTube, to our Zoomers and subscribers, and those of you here at our flagship station at the Egudas Yisrael Be'ezev of Fairways Lakewood. Tonight, we have two wonderful sponsors. The first is a diamond sponsorship. People ask me, what's a diamond sponsorship? It's somebody that really wants to help to share. He makes a diamond sponsorship. So Dr. Sana and Rhonda Black are, first of all, sponsoring it. Lila Nishmas, Rhonda's father, whose yahrzeit is today, Pinchas Aaron ben Yisrael. His neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. He should be a melitz yosher for his family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael. They also want to congratulate the shir on the milestone of reaching 9,000 shiurim on TorahAnytime.com. My wife was a little bit concerned about an ayin hara, so we ask Hashem that since Dr. Block is doing it for a mitzvah, so that people should know that many of my shiurim are on TorahAnytime.com. Shalom Bayis shiurim, and Yom Tov shiurim, and Chanukah shiurim, and Chinuch shiurim, and Daf shiurim, and Chok shiurim, and Mishnaya shiurim, and women shiurim. So Mitzvah Hashem Bara Me'iras Einayim. We thank the Blacks for their sponsorship. The second sponsor tonight is a Talmud of mine. He was a former president of mine in the Egudas Yisrael of Staten Island, Richard and Sharna Rosenzweig, and their sponsorship tonight is a very moving sponsorship. It's a moving sponsorship. They're celebrating and thankful that their son Mishan Yitzchak, who I remember holding as a little child, their son Mishan has successfully finished 3 tours in the IDF, and for this war, he is, Baruch Hashem, home. He's still a reservist, but he fought bravely and courageously in this war. Was, I don't have to tell you, he was in very, very dangerous places, and this Shabbos is his Bar Mitzvah Parsha, so they want to give thanks to Hashem and congratulate him on his service, and thank Hashem for protecting him and saving him during very, very, very difficult circumstances. Again, if you would like to sponsor a shir, as of now, we do not have a sponsor for next week's parasha. 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. So Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim Lefanov. Yaakov sent Malachim before him. Now Malachim could be agents, and they could be, traditionally, they're angels. But he sent Malachim ahead to his brother Esav with gifts. So Rashi says, Malachim Mamish. It doesn't mean agents, it doesn't mean couriers, it doesn't mean delivery men, it means actual angels. So the Yalkut Chamishoy says in the name of the Nitzaitze Shimshon, and this definitely goes in the category of the secrets of the Torah, which without these great people who did not have the benefit of AI or computers, but you know, the Chachamim are Ikrei Seifrim. The Chachamim are called counters, and they had calculators and computers in their heads. So, in the Tzaitzei Shimshon cites the Zohar Chodesh that when Esav was coming threateningly to Yaakov, Hashem sent 3 angels to support Yaakov. And the 3 angels were Michael, Malkiel, and Shenandoel. Shenandoel is not very familiar Malach, but the Zohar Chodesh says that these are the 3 Malachim, Michael, Malkiel, and Shenandoel. So it says in the Tzaitzei Shimshon, if you add it up, and I did, Michael, Malkiel, and Shenandoel equals 677, which is exactly the gematria of the word Ezras, helpers. So when we say in the morning after Kriya Shema Ezras Avosseinu, so Ezras 677 is the gematria of Michael, Malkiel, and Shenandoel. So it's just, again, you can't make this stuff up. So Rashi says, remember I told you the Shoin Azov of Rashi, the golden words of Rashi, the golden tongue. Everything is gold. It has embedded secrets into secrets into secrets. Malachim Mamish, it's a funny lashon. You know, it could have said Malachi Kodesh, Malachi Mala. Right? Rashi says Malachim Mamish. What's this Mamish? You know, it sounds very Lubavitch, right? Mamish, right? Mamish is an abbreviation of Michael, Malkiel, and Shenandoel. It's amazing. It's amazing. What you wouldn't know if it wasn't revealed to you. It happens to be that I also notice that Mamish is also Mincha Mariv Shachris. Because that's also how we create protection for ourselves. So it says Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. So in the Sefer, which I love, Lihis Adein Ba'avosecha, he says that these Malachim were created by the mitzvahs that Yaakov did. We know, it's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, also like mitzvah achas, if you do a mitzvah, kano like praklit echad, you create a defender. So the Lisadin Bavasecha says that when Rashi says mamish, it also stands mimaisa mitzvah sha'asa. Mem shim mimaisa mitzvah sha'asa. These are angels from the mitzvahs that Yaakov did. There's a very serious Minchas Yitzchak here. The Heilige Minchas Yitzchak. And I told you that we are blessed with collections of responsa. One of the greatest collections of responsa is the Minchas Yitzchak, volume after volume after volume of many shilas that he asked with his beautifully explained answers. So he says over here, you know, right now in Eretz Yisrael there's a terrible turmoil over the attempt to draft the Bachrim that are learning in yeshiva. It's a tragedy. It's like an ambulance is coming to try to save somebody's life, and they block the ambulance with a van, and it can't get to the house to save the person. The true protection of Eretz Yisrael is Torah. The IDF is Ishtadlis. It's also protection. That's Derech HaTeva. But it says, Oim dois hoyu ragleinu, it's a Gemara in Makis. Oim dois hoyu ragleinu b'sharayich Yerushalayim. When are Oim dois hoyu ragleinu b'milchama? When are our soldiers feet planted firmly when Bisharayach Yerushalayim, when there's learning Torah in the gates of Yerushalayim. So to try to take people away from learning, so there's a Gemara in Nedarim. The Gemara in Nedarim, this the Minchas Yitzchak makes this application. The Gemara in Nedarim on Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph says, Mipnei ma nenesh Avram Avinu v'nishtabdu banav 210 years b'Mitzrayim. Why was Avram Avinu punished and he was told that his sons, his descendants will be subjugated 210 years in Mitzrayim? And the Gemara says in Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, Mipnei shenasu osu angarya b'talmidei chacham. Because when he went to rescue Lot, he took from his yeshiva the Talmidim away from learning in order to rescue Lot. Shenema v'yorek es chanichav, he girded those that he was educating, yelidei beisai, those that were born spiritually in his house. And since he took them away from learning, we were punished to go down to Mitzrayim. And therefore, says the Minchas Yitzchak, that's why it says, Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim, when he would engage in battle with Esav, he only sent Malachim Mamish. He didn't send people that were learning in the yeshiva and Shem Ve'aver. He didn't send people that were learning with him. He didn't want to take them away from learning. And that's why Rashi comments, Malachim Mamish. It's amazing, Minchas Yitzchak. It really gives a person a pause to think that it's not so simple to take people away from learning. It's a difficult subject and an emotional subject, and it's beyond the scope of this year, but I felt I wanted to share with Olam the perspective of a holy man like the Minchas Yitzchak. Hayisi bayayim achalani chorev. Yaakov said how dedicated he was. In the day he worked in the sweltering heat, v'kerach balayla, and he worked through the frostbite in the night. V'atidad shinasi me'enai, and I shook away sleep from my eyes. So the Bereshis Rabbah says that while Yaakov was up, tending and guarding his charges in the middle of the night for 20 years in the house of Lavan, Rav Shmuel bar Nachman Amar, Kol Sefer Tilim Haya Omer B'chol Laila. He said the whole Sefer Tilim every night. Now this is Yaakov Avinu. It's important to know that this is Yaakov Ishtam Yoshev Ha'olam. This is Yaakov who was capable to learn Torah very deeply and to learn with intense iyun. And yet he spent the whole night saying Sefer Tilim. It's a big thing to say Tilim, even for people that learn very well. I remember hearing that when Rav David Feinstein was on the mission together with a Rebbe and other yeshivas to help French Jews, they testified that for many hours he said Tilim on the plane. The saying of Tilim is very powerful. Now, the holy Igra de Kala, very, very holy Sefer, says that the fact that Yaakov said Tilim is hinted to in the first word in the Torah. Remember, I told you that Bereshis has many hints. It's Ba'alef Tishrei, Amen Yesh Me'Rabba B'Kol Tefillah, Yorei Shabbos, Yorei Boshes, Rashi Tovo. Remember I told you Bereshis has many things embedded in it. One of the things, the Igrit Kala says, one of the things that Bereshis has embedded in it is if you look at the acronym Bereshis, it's Yaakov Omar Tilim Be'ez Shahayaraya. Yaakov said Tilim when he was a shepherd. Now you're going to ask, Rabbi Weiss, I don't know what you're talking about. Tilim, David HaMelech wrote. Yaakov was a long time before David HaMelech. How could he say Sefer Tilim? It's a good question. A question that the Heilige Satmar Rebbe, the Divrei Yoel, Zecher Tzav V'Kodesh Bracha, Schus Yogan Aleinu asked. And he said that Yaakov already knew Sefer Tilim b'Nevuah before David HaMelech wrote it. But it's teaching us the importance of saying Tilim. And no matter how great you are, there's always room for the saying of Tilim. That's a special communication and connection with the Rebbeinu Shalom. Now, people of a more Hasidish bent will right away have a different question. But you know, many people don't learn Tanakh in the night. As Yosef Oimit says, that when Moshe Rabbeinu was up in Shemayim, how did he know when it was day and when it was night? He was above the sun. So he said during the day he learned Chumash, so he knew it was day, and during the night he learned Mishnah, so he knew it was night. And there's a famous Be'er Hativ in Orach Chaim Reish Lamed Ches Beis that cites the Arizal, the Heilige Arizal, Schus Yogan Aleinu, that you don't read Tanakh in the night, because Tanakh is din and night is din, and the mixture of the two is dangerous. So the Tilim is Tanakh. So how did Yaakov Avinu say Tilim in the night? So some answer, as the Eitzar Ploy says in a footnote, that the Arizal is only till Chatzais, because after Chatzais is Rachamim. And they suggest that David HaMelech said the Tilim after Chatzais. However, the Eshel Avram says that since David HaMelech was Mispalel, David HaMelech asked the Rebbeinu Shalom that people that say Tilim, it should be considered like the learning of Negoim and Ohlais. Now, you have to know, but those that are in the know that from the very hardest sections of Mishnayos is Negoim, the laws of Tzaras, which is extremely complicated, and the laws of Ohlais. Ohlais. I remember for the Chak, I had to do a perik of Ohlais, and I remember preparing that one perik for 10 hours. I don't think there's any daf in Shas, even Yevamos daf test, that I spent 10 hours on. But on one perik in Ohlais, I prepared 10 hours to prepare that perik. And David HaMelech was mispalel that the saying of Tilim should be like the learning of Negoim and Ohlais, and it's brought down that Hashem acceded to his request. So the Eshel Avram says, since David HaMelech said Tilim should be like the saying of Negoim and Ohlais, so it's like Mishnayos. So there's no problem doing it in the night. I remember that my first Rebbetzin, Mimliba Basar Baron, she had a Tilim group Monday nights. And she had shifts. The first shift had over 100 women. And I remember that some people at the time raised the question, is it proper to say Tilim in the night? And at the time I asked different people, and they all said it's not a problem. And she had for many years hundreds of women. In our home, I remember we finished Tilim thousands of times. Many people do not practice this Arizal, For example, many people on Maver Sedra Friday night. I believe that in the yeshiva of Staten Island, Ramosha's yeshiva, we did not practice this, and we learned Chumash and Navi in the night. I'm not sure. I can't say 100%, but I believe in Rabbi Mintz's Sefer, Zekeinecha V'Yomrulach, he cites that this was not the practice in the yeshiva. I know for the fact that Rabbi Ruvain Feinstein, right after Havdalah, starts to be Mavis Seder right away for the next week's Seder to get a jump on it. So I remember in yeshiva, we were Makbid, and we learned Chumash, and we learned Navi, and we learned Ksuvim in the night as well. Once I'm speaking about the fact that we see that even somebody as great as Yaakov Avinu spent his nights learning Tillim, even though he could have been learning deep Gemara and spent time learning Tillim. The Sefer Shari Eira, amongst others, says that one of the benefits of saying Tillim, and I want to quote him verbatim, Tillim kidei lefanois derech letfilas lavar. Tillim is a preparation to clear the way that our tefillah should go up to heaven. There are obstacles from our tefillahs going up to heaven. Sakoisa ba'anallah me'avor tefillah. I cover like with a cloud, like an iron curtain, from tefillahs getting through. Tillim helps that the tefillahs should get to the Rebbeinu Shalom. It clears the way. The very, 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 very prestigious Sefer Seder Hayom says that Hispalel David HaMelech prayed, Ubikesh Rakamim, and asked for mercy from Hashem, Al Kol Oisek B'Sifrei, that whoever involves himself with Tillim, Shelo Yoshev Reikim, he shouldn't be turned away empty-handed. No, it's David HaMelech planted in the Sefer of Tillim a prayer to Hashem that whoever says Tillim shouldn't be turned away empty-handed. We're talking about responsa. One of the most famous responsa in the history of the Jewish people is the Gadol Adar, the Noda B'Yehuda. The Noda B'Yehuda, in one of his responsa, I give you the source if you want to look it up. It's in Madura Kama, Arachaim Siman Lamed Beis. He writes as follows, and again I'm going to quote it verbatim. V'yidabek ma'oid b'shirais v'sishbachai shel David HaMelech. Attach yourself a lot to the songs and praises of David HaMelech. Shezed davar gadol, because this is a great help. Lahaliv kol adam, to inspire, to warm up, to be misorer avas habayre baruch Hashem. The saying of Tillim gives a person a love for Hashem. It's not easy to love Hashem. We don't see Him. We love what we see. But we're expected, right? We always say, right, that we should be zeichel la'avo liyireh shemecha. We say every day, v'ahavta es Hashem elikecha. But to be inspired, says the Noda B'Yehuda, the Gadol Adar, says the Noda B'Yehuda, you want to lahaliv, you want to get inspired, you want to get a bren. Lahaliv means to have a bren. You want to have a bren of Ava? Then say Tillim. Now it's interesting. The Chavetz Chaim wrote a sefer called Zechor LeMiriam. And he says, how does one acquire yira, fear of Hashem? So he says to be Mavis Sedra gives a person yiras Hashem. And here, the Night Yehuda says, how does one get Avas Hashem? He learns Tillim. Let's get back to our Pasha. So we know that Esav comes, and Yaakov is lined up with his 4 wives and their respective children. Vayares hanoshim ves hayolodim, and Esav sees the women and the children. Vayomer, and he says, Mi elalach, who are these to you? This whole crowd. Wow, it's a big crowd. Who are these to you? Vayomer, and he says, Hayolodim asher chanan alikim esavdecha. These are the children that God graced your servant with. So the obvious question is, he asked, Vayares hanoshim ves hayolodim. So he asked both about the women and about the children. And Yaakov only answered about the children. So the stock answer, as the Heilige Ramban says, it's not right to ask about women. It's not sneeristic to ask about women. So since it's not sneeristic to ask about the women, he didn't answer him about the women. He just answered him about the children. That's the stock answer. The Sefer Meleches Shemayim develops a very important theme over here. And it's a theme that we have to know, especially living with the wave of feminism that's in the world. The Meleches Shemayim says, quoting the Meiri, the great Rishon Meiri. This Meiri could be found on his Pirush to Mishlei. Meiri is one of the Rishonim. He wrote on almost everything. So on his Pirush to Mishlei, on Eishes Chayil, he writes as follows. Again, I quote, Ki tzricha isha shetei oizeves midas aviyah. A woman has to forsake the ways of her parental home. V'tisnaig b'midas v'anhagas bala. And do the customs of her husband. It's a very important thing. It's hard for a woman. She grew up maybe in a more Hasidic house, and she had certain customs, and now her husband has different customs. Says the Meiri, you can't have you're raising children. You can't have a mishmash. And it's proper for a wife to abandon the way of her parents and do of course the husband has to be a frum fellow. But if the husband is a religious fellow and he had good rebbeim, then she has to abandon the ways of her parents' home and do the way of her husband. I know that there was a machloikis in the home because the wife saw her mother on Shabbos, she only lit 2 candles, Zachar v'Shamar. The husband's minhag, which is a more common minhag, is that every child added another candle. So if you have 4 children, you light 6 candles, 2 for the husband and wife, it's 2 for Zachar and Shamar, and for the 4 children. She argued she only wants to light 2 candles. That's what the Meiri is saying. That's no. Woman gets married, a woman adopts the customs of her husband. Says the Meleches Shemayim, so therefore in that way a woman is like one of the husband's children. Because just like the children follow in the ways of their father, so a wife follows in the ways of her father. And that's why it says, says the Meleches Shemayim, that refers to the wives too. because the wives are like Yelodim in adopting the customs of their father. That's the words of the Melech HaShemayim. The Heilige Reb Shmuel Hamana, says that Esav asked accusingly, Mi Eila Loch, you're married to 4 sisters. Rachel and Leah were sisters, and Bilhah and Zilpah were also the daughters of Lavan from concubines. So they're also sisters. So Esav said, Mi Eila Loch, what kind of a thing is this? You purport to be, you sit and learn Torah all the time, and you're such a tzaddik, and you're married to 4 sisters? It's a Issachar. So mi eila lach. So Yaakov told him. The Gemara says that really, if a person commits adultery, they shouldn't have children. Hashem shouldn't allow from a sin children to come about. But he doesn't change his teva. Olam kiminhagay nahag. But Yaakov said, Rachel and Leah were both akaros. They were both barren. They weren't supposed to have children. The fact they had children is a miracle. God wouldn't make a miracle if what I did was sinful. And that's when he said, Mi eila lach. Yaakov said, I'll tell you, look, Hashem gave me children. They were barren. It was a miracle. Hashem wouldn't make a miracle if I did something forbidden. Now this is a pshat that I said for years. I said it in Chumash Shiurim. Excuse me, I said it in Shalom Bayis Shiurim. Sometimes a wife will say to me, you know, I have a hard life with this man. I wonder if I married my Basherta. Maybe I missed out. Maybe I didn't marry my Basherta. And I would tell them this word from the Maria Assad. The Maria Assad says that Esav said he saw the Noshim and the Yelodim, the Yomer, and he said to Yaakov, Mi eila lach. Says the Maria Assad, Eila is the same letters as Leah. And what Esav was saying is, Mi Leah lach. I was supposed to get Leah. We were twins. And Rachel and Leah were twins. They said the older one for the older one and the younger one for the younger one. So I was supposed to get Leah. You stole from me Leah. Mi Leah lach. He didn't say it directly, but he said, Mi Eila, and Eila is Isias Leah, says Namari Assad. Mi Leah lach, what are you doing with Leah? Leah was mine. It's supposed to be mine. Says the Maria Assad, Yaakov answered him, look what I have from Leah, 6 children, a Ruvain, a Shimon, a Levi, a Huda, 6 boys, and Dinah. If she wasn't Bashert, would I have had such children? And I tell this sometimes to a woman who has beautiful children learning in yeshiva and Beis Yaakov. And she tells me, I don't know if I have my Basherta. Said, if he wasn't your Basherta, would you have had such children? That's what Yaakov was telling Esau. It's a tremendous lesson. Now we know the famous fight, a fight to the death between Samael and Yaakov. Vayei Ishimai, and the man fought with him ad alois hashachar, until dawn. So Chazal tell us that this Ish is Samuel. Now, what's Samuel? So the Pashup Pshat is it's the Malach HaMavos. The Malach HaMavos came to collect him. And Samuel is a corruption of Sam Kale, the poison of God. So it says that the Malach HaMavos came, but Vayar Kilo Yachaloi. He couldn't prevail over Yaakov because Yaakov was the Ish Tam Yoshev Ha'olam. He was always learning. And when a person is always learning, they're protected from the Malach HaMavos. However, the Klei Yakar says that there's another kavanah in Samuel, because we know that the Gemara in Bava Basra says that actually the Malach HaMavos is a man of many hats. It says, Hu ha-Yetzer Hara, Hu ha-Satan, Hu ha-Malach HaMavos. It's Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination that comes to tempt the person. Then he acts in the guise of a Satan to prosecute. And then he acts in the guise of the Malach HaMavos to carry out sentence. Says the Klei Yakar, Samuel, look at the letters. It's not hard to see. Samech Mem Aleph Lamed spells Lisameh, to blind. That's the job of the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara blinds us. That's why he's called Samuel, because his job is Lisameh, is to blind us from the light of the world. That's a very important thing. Let me quote the words of the Klei Yakar. Shehu l'samei einei b'nei adam, it blinds the eyes of people, milirais haderech hanachayna, to see the correct way, v'hichshich einav, and it darkens his eyes, b'derech ha'emes. For example, the Yetzer Hara succeeds by many people, most of the time, from blinding them to the fact that Olam Hazeh doime leproizder lifnei Olam Haba, that this world is only a hallway to prepare for the Olam Haba. Many people forget about that and get wrapped up in this world. I would say, do you ever see somebody go to a big wedding and they spend the whole night in the coat room? Somebody says, I had a nice time. I was seeing very nice minks and very fancy coats. You spent the whole night in the coat room? Are you crazy? Do you know that they had a 50-piece band? Do you know how Lebedik the dancing was? Do you know that they had an amazing menu in cuisine? But there are people that spend their life in this world in the coat room. Why? Because the Yetzer Hara is Mesameh Einei B'nei Adam. That's why Samuel is L'sameh. Now, it's not for nothing that it says Vayeovek Ish Imai. The root of Yeovek is Avak, dust. Rashi says because when you fight, you kick up dust. But the idea of kicking the dust is that sometimes when two gladiators are fighting, and one of them, to get an edge, takes a handful of dirt and throws it into the eyes of his opponent, who gets temporarily blinded. Vayavek is, it blinds the person. It blinds the person from the mission in life. For example, the Yetzer Hara blinds people and convinces them there's nothing wrong with smoking and vaping and gambling. Mamish convinces them. The fact that smoking is known to kill people. Vaping, we don't even know, it might be worse than smoking. Many doctors say that. How people kill themselves with drinking. Recently, Rav Bender came out with a proclamation against the absurd, insane custom of Toyameha, that before Shabbos, people go and celebrate and drink and get drunk and go home drunk, drive drunk. Now, of course, that's an entire, I always say the Yetzer Hara gets a good laugh. It's a good laugh. That's not Toyameh. Toyameh is that you're supposed to taste the food to see if it's good for Shabbos. It says, Toyameh Chaim Zachs is a Shaila. On Asar B'Tevis, it falls out on Friday. How are you going to fulfill that? So some people, it says you could taste it and spit it out. Or others cook something Thursday night, which is also Erev Shabbos, and taste it Thursday night. But that's what Toyameh is. Not having buffalo wings with single malt scotch and finishing bottles. That's not what Toyameh is. We need somebody like Reb Bender. Chazal tell us, Dor Dor v'Dor Dor Dor Manhigav. Every generation has its darshanim. Every generation has its directors. See, the Ben Ish Chai said that Adam Arishan was created on Friday, and he sinned in the 10th hour with his wife. And from that time, there was given a koyach to the Satan, to the Yetzer Hara, to cause a problem between husband and wives. Now, it was in certain generations, the problem was they were fighting over, where's my socks? And why aren't you helping? And why isn't the house clean? And yes, the Ben Ish Chai says that since Friday night is a special time of intimacy between husband and wife, the Satan was already given the power already before Shabbos to mess it up. That's true. Rabbi Franz said that before you get upset about something on Erev Shabbos, you should say to yourself, I'm only getting upset about this because there's a special koyach to cause problems between husband and wives on Erev Shabbos. He says you should tell yourself that. But it's not a surprise to me that there's a problem before Shabbos of drinking wine. It's not a surprise. It's from the beginning of mankind. What did Adam sin with in the 10th hour? So the Gemara says one opinion is the Eitz Hadas was geffen, was wine. It says because wine brings Yalala La'ilam, woe to the world. So I'm not surprised that people have, right before Shabbos, a problem with wine. That's mamish in our history. We have to understand that just like Yetzer Hara is given the power to blind us, to put up a smoke screen, a sandstorm, so also the Torah gives us the Or. The Torah illuminates us. That's why it says, Barasi Yetzer Hara, I created Yetzer Hara, Barasi Torah Tavlunla. I created Torah as the antidote. The Torah opens our eyes. It gives us the right spectacles. That's why it says, Vayar Likim Es Ha'ar. Es Ha'ar, says the Baal HaTurim, is B'gematria B'Torah. There's light in the Torah. The light clears the way. It clears the way. It opens our eyes. We have to know that the Yetzer Hara has a special power on eyes. That's why one of the biggest challenges of our generation is Shmiras Einayim, of watching our eyes. Our eyes need a lot of Kedusha. That's why my Sefer Power Benching, which by the way is reprinted in hardcover, if somebody wants a hardcover or some hardcovers to give out as Hanukkah presents, You could text me 718-916-3100. They're $25 a piece. I'll be glad to send you some. In my Sefer Power Benching, I talk about the fact that there's an idea to bench from a bencher and to daven from a sitter. Now, of course, the simple reason is because ois machkimos. The letters make us more intelligent. When we say it by heart, it's not the same as seeing the letters. But I'll tell you that even the great Reb Chaim Ozer Gudzensky, Chaim Ozer had a encyclopedic memory. When he saw words in front of him, but he also benched from a bencher. I'm going to tell you another reason why. Rav Shach said, when they asked him, Bameh harachta yamim, in what merit he lived long, he said he always benched from a bencher. You see, when you bench from a bencher and you daven from a sitter, you're getting your eyes in the act of your benching. It's a very big thing. Benching is 3 mitzvahs d'oraisa and 1 mitzvah d'rabbanan. When you bench from a bencher, you're getting your eyes in the mitzvah of benching. If you bench by heart, your eyes aren't doing it. You daven by heart, your eyes aren't doing it. Rav Pam used to add that if you want to have more kavanah, he would say, put your fingers on the words and follow the words with your fingers. It will help you focus even more. That was advice that he used to give. Lo Yaakov Yomer Oid Shmecha Kiyam Yisrael. Your name shouldn't be anymore Yaakov, but Yisrael. But we know that we use Yaakov also. So it's interesting. The Chassam Sofer says a wonderful thing. The Chassam Sofer says Yaakov, spelled with a vav, Yud Ayin Kuf Vav Vez, says that Yaakov took the vav from Eliyahu. That's why it says Eliah. And Yaakov with a vav, Yud Ayin Kuf Vav Vez, and Yisrael together is exactly Gematria 729, and that's the Gematria of Kra Satan, to tear the Satan. It's 729. The Koyach of Yancha Hashem b'yoyim tzara yisagevcha Shem Elokei Yaakov. The juxtaposition of Yaakov and Yisrael is Kra Satan. You know what else is Kra Satan? Really interesting. Pesach Matzah Moreh, that combination, Pesach Matzah Moreh, that we say on the night of the Seder, Pesach Matzah Moreh, is also exactly 729. It's also exactly Kra Satan. Just talk for a minute about the name Yisrael, who we are. Yisrael. You know, all of our national names start with a Yud. We're Yehudim, we're Yisrael, we're Yeshurun. All of our national names start with a Yud. Yisrael, when we say that we're B'nai Yisrael, the name Yisrael is an abbreviation for all the Avos and Imais. The Yud is Yitzchak and Yaakov. The Shin is Sarah. The Reish is Rivka and Rachel. The Aleph is Avram, and the Lamed is Leah. The Bnei Yisrael in Yisrael are 3 Avos and 4 Imais, right? Again, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Avram, and Leah. That's the meaning of Bnei Yisrael. Yisrael is also Shir Kale. You just rearrange the letters of Yisrael. It's Shir Kale, song to God. Because it says in a pasuk, why were we chosen? Our national duty is to daven to Hashem, Yehudim, people that give thanks. Amzu, the pasuk says, Amzu yatzarti li, this nation I created for me, tilasi yisaperu. You'll tell me my praise. So Yisrael are the people that shir kel, that sing to God. You know that Yisrael is also Oshar li. Ushar means fortune, like Ashrei. Ushar li. Great fortune is to me that I was born a Yid. Wow. Somebody says, I never won anything. You never won anything? You're an observant Jew? Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek olam haba? You were given the Torah? You were given 613 mitzvahs? Asher li Yisrael, asher li, great fortune is mine. V'yomer Esav yesh li rav. I have a lot. V'yomer Yaakov v'chi yesh li kol. I have everything. That's two completely different attitudes to life. Yesh li rav, I have a lot, but there's a lot more I want. That's the recipe for an unhappy, unfulfilled life. Because Misha Yesh Lo Imana writes a Messiah, somebody has 100, wants 200. And Ein Adam Meis V'chatzi Tavasa B'yadi. No one dies having fulfilled half of their desire. And as I explained many times, the more you have, the further you get from what you desire. If you have 100, you want 200, but if you have 1 million, you want 2 million. If you have 100 million, you want 200 million. If you have 1 billion, you want 2 billion. You're getting further and further away from happiness. It's a sorry state. The Mishnah also tells us it's counterintuitive. Most Americans for sure think more is better. But the Mishnah tells us, Ma'ar b'nechos and ma'ar b'daiga. The more possessions, the more worry. We don't think that way. We think I have an idea, if I could franchise it all over the world, wow. But that's not true. The Rav in Mishnayos says on Pirkei Avos, Ma'ar b'nechos and ma'ar b'daiga, he talks about something called Pizur HaNefesh, the fragmentation of the soul. If a person has to be, he has a business, he made a business. There's a great business. He sells pumpkin oil. It's good for the prostate. And he markets it in different ways all over the world. So he's busy in 7 different time zones. He never has a minute's rest. It's Pizur HaNefesh, the fragmentation of the soul. Here's a person I know. He bought investment properties. What a lucky man. I have 1 house. He has 5 houses. But in front of one house, somebody slipped and broke his neck. I was suing him because he had cracks in the sidewalk. Another house, the roof caved in. He's busy with all kinds of problems, dealing with insurance. He said, Ma'ar b'nechos and ma'ar b'daiga, yesh li rav. On the other hand, Yaakov said the Yiddish attitude, yesh li kol, I have everything. Ezo Osher Asameach Bechelkei. Remember I told you that the word B'Simcha is the same letters as Machshava. Simcha is an attitude. We ask in davening always, Sab'enu mituvecha, let me be satisfied with what you give me. If I always want more, that's a recipe for disaster. If I learn how to be satisfied with what I have, that's what's Yaakov, Yesh li kol. I have everything. Remember I told you that the only song that I could think of that everybody sings with the same nigun is Dayenu. You ever go to a house and they're singing Dayenu to a different tune? Dayenu. I go to a hotel for Pesach, and although most of the time I get a private dining room, but I go into the main dining room and you see from every corner of the dining room, Dayenu. Nobody's singing Dayenu to a different tune. Now, at first glance, Dayenu sounds absurd. If you brought us to our sinner, you didn't give us the Torah, it's enough. And we're singing with gusto, Dayenu. Enough without. It would be enough without the Shabbos. Are you crazy? But everybody's singing it with such a lusty, they have some wine already in their belly, and Dayenu without the Torah, without the Shabbos. But Dayenu is one of the things that we pass down to our children at the night of the Peseder. And that is whatever we have, Dayenu. We have to learn it's enough. Like we make a bracha, she'asa li kol tzarki. I don't want to get carried away with this. Shimon and Levi make a deal. They tell the people of Shem, they're going to punish them for violating their daughter Dinah, humiliating her. So they said, you want to marry our girls? Himol lochem kol zachar. Should all circumcise. Sefer Ber HaShabbos asks, they could have came up with a different subterfuge. Why did they get them all to circumcise? And he gives an answer that rings so true today. They knew that if they would circumcise themselves and become like Jews, the world wouldn't care what happened. Once it's with a Jew, outrage is gone. There could be one Afro-American person that's treated badly, and the whole country goes crazy. But October 7th? Nobody goes crazy. Go in and slaughter mercilessly men, women, children, butcher children in front of their parents, wives in front of their husbands. No, but it's Jews. The world has a different standard when it comes to Jews. Ki b'makli avarti es hayarden hazeh. Boy, I see it's already an hour. I can't believe it. Again, I want to thank Dr. Sana and Rhonda Block for being diamond sponsors this evening in memory of Rhonda's father on the 6th yahrzeit, Vay Bayayim, Pinchas Aaron ben Yisrael. Shama should have a great aliyah. my dear, dear friends and Talmidim Richard and Shana Rosenzweig, celebrating that their son Mishan Yitzchak, finished 3 tours, courageously, bravely, risking his life for the safety of Klal Yisrael in the IDF, on his Bar Mitzvah Parsha, in admiration for him and in tremendous hodah to Hashem for protecting their son. Again, if you would like to sponsor a share, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. We'll talk about the makel tomorrow night for the Shabbos table. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful Shabbos.